To you all. Tommy, what's wrong with Islam today?
What's wrong with Islam today? You could look to any country in the world and pick any number of the things that Muslims are doing in the name of Islam. There's an entire state being created in the Middle East, which is propagating murder, rape, enslavement of non-Muslims. That's it, anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world. There's a hell of a lot wrong with Islam today. Well, it's not just today, there's a hell of a lot wrong with Islam for the last 1400 years.
Are you anti-Islam and or anti-migrant?
I'm not anti-immigration, no. I'm also not anti-Muslim. I have a problem with the ideology of Islam because it propagates and incites hatred against me. It has a view of me as a non-Muslim, as a kafar, and I will speak out against it.
Also from my age range and my generation, where there's really no point in being divided on how we should treat each other. I think that if we listen, or at least I feel like a lot of people feel like if we listen to each other, if we have a civilized discussion about how we feel as opposed to what is right and wrong, you know, a lot of people are willing to have that discussion. So I'm optimistic.
Tommy, you want to come in there?
Yeah, I'm not optimistic. I'd like to ask that lady what I've said that's factually incorrect, or if she's in support of punishment for apostasy, if she's in support of death for homosexuals, if she's in support of punishment for adultery. What is it that I oppose that she stands up for? I'd like to know what it is she stands up for, because or what I've said that's factually incorrect. Because she may not like hearing the truth, but the truth is still the truth.
Who's trying to introduce the death penalty for homosexuals in Germany or in the UK? Who's doing that?
Pardon, what did you say?
Who is advocating right now? Is there a movement that you see in the UK or in Germany that is trying to implement Sharia law, let's say, is trying to advocate for death penalty against homosexuals? Is there something like that happening? What is Islamization?
Yes. Yes, there is Islamisation. In the UK, we have 85 operating Sharia law courts. 85. So yes, there is. There are many Muslims calling for Sharia across Europe.
Tommy, just to interrupt you for a second, correct me if I'm wrong here. I've spent the past 3 months in Doha. Before that, I lived and worked in London for a quarter of a century and up and down the UK. I have never, ever, ever seen Sharia law being applied by a legally constituted British court. That has never, ever happened.
Doesn't matter if it's a legally constituted British court. We have 85 Sharia court tribunals which are operating within our country, which are making decisions such as when a child gets to the age of 7, he's taken away from the custody of the mother and given to the father. The women are inheriting 50% less than the men. We have Sharia tribunals in our country. And when you're talking about what's going on across Europe, on New Year's Eve we had over 800 women who were sexually abused and assaulted in just one city. We've had people murdered and butchered by refugees in Paris. This lady says that the Pegida and groups like that are a danger to democracy. What democracy? No one's voted or asked if we want barbarians to come through our borders. No one's asked us. No one's asked the people of Europe. If you ask the people of Europe, they'll tell you quite frankly, we don't want people coming into our country who wish to bring their backward way of life or their culture or their intolerance with them. And that's the reality of where we're at in Europe.
I'm sorry.
OK, thank you for that, Bilgin. Tommy, I will come back to that point, Tommy, but I just want to put one quite fulsome point to you, if I may. I'm sitting here in a studio in Doha. We are in Qatar. We are arguably in the heart of the Middle East. Therefore, we are in the heart of Islam. Let me just read something to you from the Holy Book, and I want you to react to that, OK? And you can't see me, but I've got a copy of the Quran in front of me. There are parts of a Holy Book that talk about people being persecuted and killed. There are parts of a Holy Book that talk about people all over the world being killed because you are my followers. Another quote from one of the Holy Books in this part of the world talks about people being stoned to death with stones until they die. Another part of a holy book that one can read in this part of the world talks about utterly destroying your enemies, spare them not, but slay both man and woman. When you hear those quotes, what do you think that speaks to?
I'd ask you why you're reading the Old Testament to me.
You've had that before, haven't you?
Simple question.
So,
no, it's a simple question. I'm not stupid. You're sitting quoting verses from the Old Testament, thinking that I'm a moron that would think that's from the Quran. I know the Old Testament and I know the Quran. Can I ask you a question? Have you read the Quran?
Yes.
You have?
Yes.
Yeah? So
in English, not in Arabic, but in English.
In English? Are you free, sitting where you are in Doha, to criticise the Prophet Muhammad? Are you free to do that?
Yes, I am. I have had intelligent conversations with my Islamic colleagues on the very same subject.
Yeah. So you know of the life of Muhammad, yes? You know that he murdered 600 people. You know that he raped. You know that he has... No. People in the Bible is very different to people in the Bible and the messenger of God, who is the most moral compass for every Muslim in the world. And when he is the moral compass for every Muslim in the world, and he married a 6-year-old child called Aisha, and he raped her when she was 9, I have a problem with that. And when people wish to live as Muhammad did in my country, well, no. The country you're sitting in now, people from Israel are not even allowed to enter it. So if we want to talk about fascism, the country you're in now, people with Israeli passports. But, okay, is that untrue? Can someone in Qatar leave Islam?
Yes.
Is apostasy punishable?
You don't have to be Islamic to be in Qatar. You can leave the country. You can come into the country if you are Jewish.
A Muslim cannot leave Islam. It's punishable in Qatar. The country that you're talking to me from, the country whose tower I'm sitting in, the country that funds radicalisation worldwide, the country that supports Hamas, and you're sitting there trying to take some moral high ground about issues in the world that relate to Islamic extremism, when the country and the people who are paying your wage are propagating that extremism worldwide. I've come into this building and just had to go through an airport-style scanner, and when I asked why, they said because of the Paris attacks.
Tommy, I do have to move the debate on because I do have to move the debate on. Yes, of course I do. Because otherwise you and I will end up having...
what you're hearing.
No, that's not true, sir. Otherwise you and I will have to have... You and I will have to have a conversation down the pub the next time I'm back in London. Alexander, coming back to you, the imagery...
Pegada's demonstrations yesterday are peaceful. The only violence come from the far left who are attacking them. Can I ask how many refugees Doha, how many refugees Saudi Arabia have taken in? And a message, seeing as I am on Al Jazeera, and I know Arabs are watching this across the world, a message is that we don't want your money. We don't want your money in London. We don't want you funding madrasas. We don't want your blood or your petrol money in our country. The people of Europe are waking up. They're growing in confidence. They're organising, and they will resist every attempt, your efforts to Islamify and take over our continent. Because we know that your countries are behind this, the people at the top of your countries are behind this. If you so care about your worldwide ummah, let the Muslims in. Give them refuge in your country. That's culturally the same as you, ideologically the same as you. You give them refuge. Don't leave the burden upon the people of Europe, because what they're doing now in our country is raping their way through it.
OK, we will, on that very strong and I suspect completely inaccurate point, we will have to leave the debate there. Thank you to all our guests who joined.